What's going on, fam? It's your boy Chrome, joined by my man Pete Evans here, coming at you with a very special edition of Lazy Booking, live here on A2DRadio.com, on Facebook, Instagram, where we at? YouTube. You can
Everywhere.
check out the podcast form later. So make sure you guys are liking, subscribing, following. We got an action-packed show, guys. This was a must. Jump in now and have this conversation. We're going to be talking CM Punk, the Elite, the turmoil of AEW. So many things on the table for me and Pete to discuss. First and foremost, we're brought to you by our doctor, Dr. Paul Vidal, Specialized Physical Therapy. You can find him in Burlington, Cherry Hill, New Jersey. You can find him on the web, specializedphysicaltherapy.com. No appointment necessary. So make sure you guys check out our doc, Dr. Paul Vidal, and make him yours. We're also brought to you by BetUS. It's a leading online sports book. Been in the market for over 25 years, guys, and you can bet anywhere in the U.S. on everything. Use the link that you see below. It'll be in the comments section for a 125% sign-up bonus. Get some of that money. And, hey, you know what? You want some help on placing those too? Check out the boys over at Money Pop Podcast, by the way, while you're at it. Get a little help on that, or get some money on A2D. And check out BetUS. Our topic of conversation is brought to you by Manscaped. You get 20% off and free shipping if you use the code A2D at manscaped.com. 20% off and free shipping, guys. Use the code A2D at manscaped.com. It's time to throw away all your old hygiene habits, upgrade your life. As an avid Disney fan, I'm a big fan of the ball cream. And I'm telling you, or the ball deodorant, rather, that's the good stuff right there, boys. Hey, summertime or wherever you're at, I know summer's ending. Get down to Florida, get over to Cali, wherever you're at, that warm weather. Andy down there in Houston, I know he could use some of that. Check it out, manscaped.com. Pete, what a weekend. Okay, what a weekend. Our topic of conversation, AEW has to part ways with CM Punk. Agree, disagree. We want you guys to comment in, like, subscribe, follow. Drop your comments in. We want to hear your opinions. Pete's going to be pulling the comments up on the screen. We want to react with you guys. We want to know your thoughts. Does CM Punk have to part ways? Does the Elite have to part ways? Is CM Punk in the wrong here? There's so many complex ways to view this whole situation. Pete, I think it's safe to say the honeymoon phase is over in AEW. The cracks are starting to show. And by saying that, I'm not saying that, the company's falling apart or anything like that. However, there's real competition now. WWE is upping their game. And it's just so oddly convenient how the timing of all this is kind of coming together. You're starting to see a little bit of the shift. The WWE programming, I think, for the most part, has been better over the last month than the AEW program. I think that's, and that's obviously your conjecture and your view, but that's kind of been the popular opinion of things. But, Pete, I'm going to let you kick this one off, and then I'm going to piggyback off of you. AEW has to part ways with CM Punk. Do you agree or do you disagree?
I absolutely 100,000% agree. Phil Brooks has to go. And I had somebody tell me that you're using his name like you know him, but listen, he brought in Colt Cabana's name. That was the start. I mean, when you sit down and they don't even ask you a question, and Nick Hausman from Wrestling Inc., shout out to Nick, he says, hey, the first question, and he's like, no, I have a question. Those who fancy themselves as journalists, is this being a journalist? And then off he went, off to the races he went. For a guy that's supposed to, he referred to himself during this media scrum that, hey, I'm the first ever star to get the $1 million draw for this company, $1 million gate. That's how you act. When not only that's how you act when your boss isn't present, but how dare you act like that when your boss is sitting right next to you. I mean, the set on this guy is just amazing. Hats off to him. If he like what we're hearing, if he felt like he needed to stand up to the supposed bullies of the EVPs, you don't do it in this fashion. This if you're a true leader, you don't handle it in this fashion. And I'm still trying to figure out where the hell Hangman Adam Page went into business for himself in a promo, and then I listened to the actual words the actual words where he said that you want to take advice. I heard the whole Adam Page voice snippet of that, and he said in the locker room, it's not like guys are looking to come to me and say anything. You want me to go around and ask? I'm not going to do that. I'm not that type of guy. That's not who he's built to be. So where Punk came off with this, how he fabricated his own reality of how things went down. And once again, I'll listen to the Hangman Adam Page promo time and time again. And I'll go back to a year ago when he and MJF started their program and what MJF was saying to him, what Eddie Kingston said to him. Eddie Kingston said the same exact shit that Adam Page said. Why you ain't have a problem with that? Why you want to pick the person who used to be a high school teacher, who's soft spoken? I'm not talking about all of the politics behind the scenes with the Elite, Omega, and Young Bucks. I'm talking about supposedly Hangman Adam Page spearheaded this thing to the point where you said that he went into business from himself, but he did that shit in front of you. You wait 2 or 3 months later, knowing that this guy can't come out. You won't even say it to his face. It's just, I mean, your opportunist. He's the perfect opportunist. I just, he just makes my skin crawl, bro. It sucks because he has a song by Living Color, Cult of Personality. I fucking love that song, and now that song is associated with somebody who's one strike away from being a fucking douchebag, in my opinion. Sorry, that's just how I feel. It's just how I feel. Me and you talk about it all the time. He can't even work at the same rate that he used to. Every time they put the strap on him,
it's been rough.
Twice in the last 4 months, they put the strap on him. Both fucking times he's gotten hurt.
It's true. He's true.
Fragile.
Yeah, so let's set the stage for anyone who's been living under a rock or just hasn't had access. Maybe you've been on vacation, you haven't really been following since Sunday night. AEW All Out, second biggest, arguably the biggest. Yo, John, what's up, brother? Great to have you back, buddy. Make sure you're dropping your comments in, John. We want to know what you're thinking and everybody else out there watching as well. Let's set the table here, okay? AEW has arguably their biggest or second biggest show of the year, AEW All Out. Main event match, Jon Moxley defeats CM Punk. I'm sorry, CM Punk defeats Jon Moxley. Earlier in the night, they crowned the inaugural Trios champions, the Elite. They defeat the Dark Order with Hangman Page. That's just to kind of set what gets the show going this tonight, which, by the way, AEW is live, and we might get some live reactions if anything major happens. We've already had 2 major things happen, and we're going to touch on them. They do a post every night. We know where Tony Khan comes from. He likes to have that big sports event feel. So Tony always does the post pay-per-view media scrum. So the scrum basically opens up, and I'll tell you, Pete, if you haven't listened, we've all seen it. You can watch it on YouTube. I suggest watching it on YouTube. But Fightful did a podcast. They dropped an episode of the podcast where it's just their recording from in the media area. So what's great about that is there's some questions you can and you can't hear, and you actually do hear the very beginning of how the whole thing kind of comes about with – I forget what media outlet he's from. His name is Nick. And that's kind of as it fades in, CM Punk's kind of asking him, like, who are you friends with? Are you friends with Scott Colton, who is Colt Cabana? But I would suggest going and checking out on Fightful on their podcast, and you can check their podcast out. They do their version of it where you can hear every question asked, every response. Lee Grimes saying, fire Punk. Here we go. They're starting to roll in. That being said, so he goes on this crazy rant. John says Punk's overrated, prima donna, #fire Punk. They go on this starts going on this rant, and he starts exposing intimate details of the fallout with Colt Cabana, Scott Colt. He discusses the finances. He discusses that, he kind of starts it out where I haven't been friends with this guy since 2014 or late 2013, which clearly Punk's time frames are off. He left WWE in 2014. He did the podcast in either end of 14 or early 15. So he's got to get his time frames right here. He said, I probably didn't want to be friends with him even before then. So he goes in, he starts breaking down the finances. He says, I have this thing with trust falls where I expect my friends to catch me. He's a guy I wouldn't trust to catch me. And then he starts talking about how, they decided to part ways.
And he
Colt Cabana.
specifically said, his bill stopped being paid when I decided to stop paying his bill.
Right. And he said the Colt Cabana basically said to him, like, I'll take care of my own. We can have different legal records. Because at the time, they were both being sued by WWE and by the doctor with WWE at the time. Which I think he's still there. Anyway, so it starts going into like this crazy rant about the finances, the emails. I have receipts. And he says, when I looked into, counter-suing him, we realized through discovery that he has a bank account with his mother. Then he starts running him down about having an account with his mother, pulls the poor mother into it. And then it just goes one thing after the other. He starts talking about EVPs, very, very obviously talking about the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega. But he references more, I think, of the Young Bucks, where he starts talking about, this ain't Reseda. And he makes little digs and comments, and he starts talking about how and it's similar to the Colt Cabana podcast. If you remember back in 2014, it's very profanity laden.
Yep.
It's very snippy. He's snippy with the media. And he talks about irresponsible journalism. He talks about how people are, supposed to be EVPs, but yet here they are leaking bullshit and rumors. When Colt Cabana was quote unquote demoted to Ring of Honor.
Right.
And he says, I don't care where he sleeps. I don't care where he eats. I want nothing to do with him, but I had nothing to do with that. And it just kind of kept going, and it kept going. And all the while, Tony Khan is sitting right next to him, looks like a deer in headlights. He doesn't know what to do. There's some points where he's like nodding with him. There's other points where he's like, ugh. And then he says, so that's freak out was, yes, Brinkman, it was very, very real. That was a very real situation. It was a complete and utter meltdown from a guy who just won the title in Chicago. In an incredible match.
And plus to be up here in an incredible match, which he got hurt in. I just want to say that, by the way. But you're supposed to be here. Somebody who you like to work with behind the scenes, MJF, just came back. Your program is already set. He looked like someone who was just waiting for this form to say this. Like he had this loaded. And then when he lost me with Colt Cabana, when he brought up, you're talking about someone who shares an account with his mother. How? Like, why does that need to come up?
Then it was the dig after it. That should tell you everything you need to know. Because he went back and referenced it again.
Yes.
He did talk about how he Well, he did talk about how he he tried to get mediation. He tried to talk to him. He wouldn't talk to him. He offered him money. And I get all that frustration, but there's a time and a place. And this is not the time or the place for the face of the company, who you've just been anointed, again, the face of the company, to go on a rant. And I mean, the most humorous part of it was the little, and David Roska says Punk was the worst champion of all time. Frank asked me, what Punk did was very unprofessional, and I love Punk's character and his promo style. That scrum was very uncomfortable to watch. It was awkward. But I did love the little, as he's eating up, and to add the, I guess, disrespect, he's eating pastries through this whole thing. Time. And he does put over this pastry business. Oh, by the way, they're closed on Monday. Minnie's Bakery, by the way. Oh, great. They're closed on Mondays and Tuesdays, though, by the way, for anybody out there in Chicago. Oh, yeah. I mean, we're giving them one here, too. But it was so awkward, and it seemed very unnecessary. And even if you start with a little bit of frustration, there was no reeling it back in. He kept doubling down on it over and over. And in topics where it wasn't even like, then MJF comes up and he says, first thing he says was, well, Tony likes to make me work with these pricks.
Oh, how do you say that with your boss right there, bro? Like, I don't understand. Oh my God.
And Tony's just like, well, I think it's a great match. You know what I mean? It's just like, then he goes again and then he's saying that, like, I don't know how legitimate that is, because he has spoken pretty well about MJF. And although since he's left, maybe it left a distaste in his mouth. Right. But he starts talking about, again, like working with these young guys, and he's sick of working with these, which is the complete opposite. Go back to his original promo.
Last year.
I can't wait to work with all the young talent in this locker room. A year later, and he's sick of working with them. Sicko. There's so many. It's so crazy how a year changes everything. But he goes on this crazy media scrum, and again, there's plenty more details. Go back, check it out. And I highly suggest that you can find it on AEW's official YouTube page. But then as he leaves, throughout it, he does say, and I should say this before we get to this next part, if anybody has a problem with me, come and say it to me. Come talk to me.
Oh, they did. Oh, they definitely did.
So reports, now again, we're quoting reports from multiple sources, Fightful, Wrestling Observer, Wrestling Inc., all over the place, that Punk goes back to the locker room with his guy, Ace Steel, who is one of the producers. The Bucks, Kenny Omega, decide to greet him at the door. And from what's details leaking out through the day, they kicked the door down. He wouldn't answer the door.
On his side, people close to Punk said he kicked the door down. Some people said that they were already in the room or they knocked on the door. Some jokes out there saying they knocked on the door, they hear anything. It says super kick party.
Party! Yeah. So they enter the room. An argument ensues. A physical altercation ensues. A chair gets thrown, hits Nick Jackson in the eye, gives him a big black eye, apparently. At some point, Ace Steel bites Kenny Omega in the arm.
Pulls his hair.
I don't know. And then multiple agents were in there. I know Pat Buck, former WWE agent, is one who was involved. I don't know. So multiple suspensions have come down from this. And it's obviously the obvious are CM Punk, Ace Steel, and the Elite, Kenny Omega, and the Bucks. There's some of the agents, and again, I couldn't name all of them off the top of my head. I know Pat Buck was one of them involved.
Christopher Daniels.
Christopher Daniels was one. I don't know if they were physically in there fighting, trying to break it up and got involved in the altercation. Anyway, tons of talent pulled that and suspended. So we're gonna really dive into this. They didn't kick the door down; they were showing Punk the door. There you go, Lee. So AEW did open up, just to provide the latest update. Breaking news tonight. AEW opens up. Tony Khan does officially announce the World Heavyweight Championship has been stripped from CM Punk, as has the Trios title been stripped off of the Elite. So, spoiler alert, just letting you guys know if anyone hasn't watched, although I would imagine if you're watching this, you're a fan that you're watching already. They have crowned new Trios champions, the Death Triangle, who went head-to-head with the Best Friends. So they have started to put all this together. They are now doing a World Championship tournament in which the tournament looks as follows. And it will culminate at the Arthur Ashe Stadium in 2 weeks for Grand Slam. It's going to be the opening round. So basically, Jon Moxley, Chris Jericho get first-round buys. Jericho will take on the winner of Hangman Page and Bryan Danielson. Moxley will take on the winner of Darby Allin, Sammy Guevara. So then there will be a match there. Next week, whoever wins the two matches tonight will move on to Jericho and Moxley next week. Winners of that move on to Grand Slam in 2 weeks. So that's your update. Now that you're totally updated, let's now reopen the discussion. It's very unusual. I understand the frustrations, Pete. And I'm not saying that some things he didn't make points about, because there have been seeds planted over time, right? We know there was dissension with Cody and the Elite. There were some issues with some creative things. There was a time where there was rumored divide where people in the locker room were Elite guys and Cody guys, and they didn't like how Cody was treated. Andy's saying, what did Andy say there?
He says, I'm here just to show love before I do my own Disney Alan C. travel thing. Catch that on YouTube. But then do I have a lot to say on all of this? Lots of feelings and emotions about AEW. So Saturday
night, you'll get Andy's feelings.
Yes.
Andy and Butters. Make sure you guys check out In This Very Ring. They'll be recapping all of the programming. They're going to do WWE programming, all the AEW stuff that's come up That'll be a full 2-hour show, I believe. So check them out. Brinkman saying, didn't WWF throw his ass out too? Sometimes you got to look in the mirror if you keep having issues. Spot on. Brinkman, spot on. John says AEW's like WCW. Inmates running an asylum. Punk not putting over talent. Sounds like Hogan in WCW. Yes. Spot on with that. There's a time and a place, and we've discussed that. And that's the difference, right? I think that there was issues before, and we've seen reports where people felt like Tony Khan wasn't accessible. So then who do you go to? People would say, I don't know who to go to. Cody was a guy there, but now Cody's not there. And that Jonathan Gresham was the guy who really exposed a lot of that stuff, where he said, how long was he trying to get meetings with Tony Khan before he was able to finally
And by that time, it was too late.
It was too late. So there's clearly a lot of structural issues in the company. I thought there was a really good point brought up today. I was listening to a podcast with John Pollock and Wei Ting.
Okay.
And they discuss taking the physical altercation out. And this is where the issue with Tony Khan is in, right? So like I put a lot of accountability on Punk. I put a lot of accountability on the Bucks. At the end of the day, Pete, what is it that you said in our group chat earlier?
It's really about, for TK in this situation, Tony Khan, ignorance is not bliss.
What was the exact quote you said?
Some people nut up on their own, and then some people are backed into a corner. They're forced to act. And Tony Khan, he can't run from this anymore. From what Cody said, go back to Big Swole when whatever happened. Everything that you've heard about AEW, everybody was all roses and golds and sunshine, beautiful beach out there, clear blue water. Nah, like there was validation. You don't get to this point without enabling it. It's this fire that we saw, like you said, take out the physical altercation. If it just ended at the media scrum, you don't get that type of fire without kindling. And you build on it, and you build on it, and you build on it, and you build on it. And TK, I wanted to ask you a question. So when everybody's saying TK wasn't successful, what the fuck was he doing? Where else are you going? It's not like you're running WWE where you have this many outreaches, you have charity work, you have this, you have that. All you have to do, and you only have 3 hours of programming a week. You don't even do live shows, bro. How are you not accessible to the roster when they need you? What the fuck are you doing?
Or, at least, again, this is a structural breakdown, right? WWE has a head of talent relations. That's the first person that you go to. And everybody knows that's your first report. Mm-hmm. Then it goes to Vince after that, when Vince was around.
Yep.
Now Hunter's basically doing everything. So Hunter is the guy overall anyway. But at that point, there was a reporting structure. Whoever the head of talent relations is, that's your first step in line. Then you go over to Vince, and it worked through that way. There's no structure here. Cody made himself accessible to people as much as I guess he possibly could while still handling the community outreach stuff, trying to, continue to develop the roster, running the school, the Nightmare Academy, and all the things on his plate. He was bred into the business, though. He has an understanding of how it's done. And I just think it's ironic, right? Because I don't know if it was ever this contentious as what it is now. However, the difference between somebody like a Cody Rhodes and maybe the Elite or CM Punk. Big Dad chiming in. What's up, Dad? What's that? Robert Gilchrist says Tony's family has a lot more than AEW. Not his only thing, I bet. However, what was his quote in that scrum? This is where I'm going to get to that. Let me hold off on that comment for a minute.
Because he did no favors for himself at the end. Tony Khan.
But the question that it's going. You know exactly what I'm going to reference. Mm-hmm. The question that was asked, or the question that they brought up was taking the physicality out. If Punk goes on this rant and Tony Khan is sitting there and he does nothing about it, can he suspend CM Punk? Because you let him sit there and continue to dig his grave without saying a word about it. So at what point are you held accountable for allowing this to continue to go on. And honestly, at that point, he said in the beginning, he had some self-awareness that I should have answered your question before Phil came out when you initially asked it. So now, as this is going on over and over and over, you're still not stepping up to the plate.
Nope.
You're deflecting. You're allowing him to overtake, which shows you that the talent is running the show. I mean, whether you want to believe it or not, Pete, right? The report today, Thunder Rosa wasn't happy about certain things, didn't want to put certain people over. Does everybody have creative control in AEW? Is that what this is? Why is Dustin not more of a pivotal figure in the company? That's what I don't understand.
I think
why isn't he the head of talent relations right now?
I think a part of it probably now wants to be with his brother again. I mean, there has to be something to that, man.
Well, because he said he loves AEW. He wants to stay there. He said, "Good luck to Cody, but I want to stay here." Okay. So why is he not a figure? Like, to me, that's the ideal guy. You're letting. I never liked the idea of having the Bucks and Kenny Omega be in these roles.
Exactly.
Maybe in the beginning, say, "Hey guys, this is temporary, but at some point we have to put a structure in place." Okay, to get them off the ground, just to have those minds. Right. But now you have, and I've heard them referenced by I think Bully Ray on Busted Open reference. You know, you have the Mark Henrys in there.
Yeah.
You have
you had these
Dean Malenko,
legendary talent there, like
tons of people with tons of experience. You have Dustin there.
Yep.
You have guys now who could step into these roles who understand how this business works, how to interact with talent.
Yep.
And really, honestly, how to soothe over some egos. So why are these people not the ones in place? Why are the people who are your top stars? This is WC, and that was to the comment. It is WCW all over again. Yep. This is Hogan, Hall, and Nash, and all those guys, and Flair, and everyone who had creative control, Sting, and everyone else having creative control over things, too much control. Now, to your question that you mentioned, or to your comment earlier, I heard the remarks made by Hangman Page, and I went back and listened a little bit, and you can sense the dig. And if you look at Punk's face at that moment that those comments were made, where he basically talks about title chances not happening backstage for other people, Punk's face, his demeanor changes. So basically, he's saying that you're supposed to be all about opportunity. It was a reference to you're taking opportunity. You come in and take opportunities from people, both title-wise or main event picture, and a reference to what happened with Colt Cabana being demoted to ROH, which in turn snowballs because Punk believes that came from the Young Bucks and that came from Kenny Omega leaking that out of the company. So
my thing to that is, if don't be this guy who says, "Come knock on my door if you got a problem with me." Say it behind the scenes, but yet you were in the ring with him. Cash that receipt. And if what we heard before we got to this point, after he calls out Hangman Page, and says, "I'll give you a rematch right now." You feel what I'm saying? Oh, you're not coming out? That's not cowboy shit. That's coward shit. This man was in your face. You could have answered. Not only
go
ahead.
But he said, I gave him an opportunity to apologize. So I think at that point he wasn't. But he said at that point
it may come out more that what happened with that when they try to mediate that.
Right. He said that he tried to give an opportunity to apologize after that. I don't think he didn't want to stoop to his level. He says that in the scrum. He tried to give him an opportunity to apologize. The apology doesn't come. Then he's hearing him. And again, this, I'm with you on it. It's his perception of how he heard those words. Says, "Oh, this guy doesn't need any advice from anybody." Okay. The water's just getting more and more tainted at this point. It's getting more toxic. Mm-hmm. And talking about, are we gonna nut up, or are we gonna be backed into a corner? Tony Khan should have stepped in long ago. This isn't something that just came up. It's been out there. We know Tony reads the dirt sheets. Mm-hmm. He knows everything that's out there.
He's KD, bro.
He did not. He just lets it happen. He is. He's KD in Brooklyn. He knows what's going on. He's just letting everything happen. and it's just it's crazy. Cody Rhodes is eating popcorn right now. I'll do one better. Hunter's eating popcorn right now.
We got somebody on the other side right now. Most of it's been
Damian Hernandez. Why would Khan suspend his main star that's bringing in money and putting butts in the seats? No one in AEW will sell tickets to fill up arenas like Punk does. I disagree with you, Damian, because part of the reason that is because they run so many shows in Chicago.
Yep.
That's because I will tell
sell.
you. Listen, I tell you what, tickets were still available in Philadelphia and Atlantic City when Punk was on the card.
Yep.
I mean, you got to think too. Kenny Omega hasn't been around; he's been hurt. Kenny Omega sells tickets.
Yep. Brian, listen. I mean, for all the people who want to, if you want to jump on Punk's jockstrap, Punk can't hold a candle to what Bryan Danielson or Daniel Bryan has done for the business. He's never main evented the rest. KO said it perfectly. He posted a picture.
Loved it. Love that.
Punk always wanted to work with Austin and always wanted main event Mania. Could never do it. KO did it. For whatever reason, people want to say this, that, and the third. KO did it. Bryan, I keep calling Daniel. Bryan Danielson is one of the biggest moments of WrestleMania history. Carried the straps more than one occasion. Main evented 2 WrestleManias. Punk has never do that. So you can't tell me in the same company where Punk and Bryan Danielson is at that Punk is the only one who can sell seats, who can sell tickets. He hasn't been around for 8 years. He's the novel thing, but guess what? He wore out his welcome already. You see what I'm saying? Like from the media scrum, and then we're getting more to the altercation is he would talk about Cabana, then talked about Page to the point where he said, "What have I ever done to this dumbass, whatever, to deserve this? I could go through a laundry list of the shit that you did to deserve it, right?" Then you go back to Cabana and then you bring up the mom. Then you go back to the EVPs, can't handle nothing. I gave him a chance. They can't even manage the target. And then
I forgot about the target line. You're right about the target line. It was pretty funny. I'm not going to lie.
It was. I mean, that's the thing. He's entertaining. He digs and he says what he needs to say. He's entertaining, but he's also such a hypocrite. That's my problem.
100%.
That's my
100%.
He's such a hypocrite, bro, to where you want things to be talked about behind the scenes and you want people to come to you and approach you behind the scenes. But when you have a problem, you feel like it's not getting done or not getting taken care of in your way, then you feel like you got to do this. Now, I will say this. If he felt like he needed to do this to force the hand of Tony Khan, okay, by all means. But then you laid your own self on the sword. But guess what? You probably, at leaving that match, he probably already knew he was fucked and he was already hurt. So he was like, fuck it, I'm going home anyway. I can't defend this title now for the second time in the last 6 months. So guess what? I'm going to say what I need to say because I'm not going to have the outlet to say it in a couple weeks. You feel what I'm saying?
Well, he always has an outlet to say whatever he wants to say.
Because people come flocking to him, getting on their fucking knees with a microphone.
It's unbelievable. He's the cult leader of professional wrestling. It's unbelievable.
He's the voice of the voiceless, right?
Yeah, I mean, there are people that doesn't matter what this guy does, they will always defend. They will defend him to death. I have been on Twitter in interactions back and forth with people who clearly he's in the wrong. Not recently, but in the past, and people just refuse to acknowledge it. It's crazy. It's crazy to me.
Like and this is when you talk about Tony Khan, and maybe you segue to. This will never happen, Raven Van Punk will never post. It's like, no, he won't. Roman Reigns, I will honestly say this: Roman Reigns and The Rock, fucking neck and neck. This character is just amazing. It's the best thing I've seen in wrestling.
Long time.
It's in a long time. But never that. When we talk about Tony Khan and it's how easy it is to get underneath this dude's skin, how he ended that media scrum. But I'm gonna tell you the first problem. And people say, where does he pick Punk? Does he pick the Elite? The first thing he fucked up was naming his company All Elite Wrestling. Why would you even give them the satisfaction of having that in the title and then making them VPs? See, now if you move on from them, you move on from the core of what AEW was, and he got happy. Tony Khan did this because of the fact of he had money, he was a wrestling fan, but then commodities became available in 2021. Daniel, let me go get Bryan Danielson. Let me go get Miro. Let me go get Malakai Black. Don't have a plan for what they're going to do, and then boom, hey Tony, it's broke. Like, I'm ready to come back. He just dropped everything.
Well, it's my buddy Nick. Shout out to Nick Staskin. I like the way He kind of described Tony, right? He's that guy who has a ton of money. And all these guys and women, they're like wrestling figures. Like, for him, he's just collecting more and more figures. For us, it's like sitting at home with your actual, like, old rubber figures playing. That's all they are. They're pieces. They're figures that he's just having fun and playing with. There's no structure there.
Right.
The potential for an amazing business, a true competitive business to WWE is there. But for anybody that thinks that they're there, you are sadly mistaken. And the holes that are exposed at this point are unbelievable. And let's be honest, look at some of the decision making. Kana's going to be the new Paul Heyman in a couple of years. No, I don't know that I would go. First of all, Paul Heyman, and Bully Ray said this, Paul Heyman would pull people right to the side. It would have never gotten to this point.
Nope.
Paul gave a lot of leeway, but when the business was at stake, they always said Paul had a way to pull you in, and even if you were totally anti whatever he was going to present to you, or there was a beef with somebody, he had a way to talk you down and convince you of whatever he was saying you were buying in. So I can't agree with that comment, unfortunately, because he's the total opposite of that. And he's almost like he reminds me of, like, if Jim Herd was a wrestling mark,
right?
This is what it would be. Yeah. Or, you know what? Even better. This is like Ted Turner with the money, the deep pockets, being able to actually compete.
Yeah.
But without the wherewithal to put a structure in place. Now, they lucked into Eric Bischoff. I'm going to be honest. Just do your homework on WCW. There was a lot of structural issues before Eric Bischoff got there. But Tony hasn't figured out the business end of it. He might think he has. He might have the dollars and cents and all that in place. But part of the business is a structure so that the business keeps moving like a machine. So you have, deserving EVPs in place. So you have head of talent relations and community outreach people in place so that there's a reporting structure. So Tony doesn't have to be bothered, and people don't say, why isn't Tony listening? But right now, Tony, you're the guy. So if you're putting it in place where you're the guy, or they don't know if they have to go to the elite or go to you.
Yeah.
What if I'm working with Omega? I have to go to him about my creative?
Yeah.
What if he don't like it? Then I'm screwed.
Yeah.
It's a poorly ran business right now. There are so many bright spots, but the holes are glaring.
Yep.
So I never even answered the poll. Do I think that they need to fire CM Punk?
He may already be
fired. Part of me says the biggest part of me says yes, but I could make an argument for no.
Yeah.
Because TK is the one. In my opinion, at the end of the day, all of this falls at his feet because it should have never gotten to the point that it's gotten to. That scrum should have never gone down the way that it did. There should have never been guys going into business for themselves.
Uh-huh.
And once that shit started, he should have been the one pulling them in. I don't even think he's smart enough to realize they were going into business for themselves until Punk did it. Because Punk blatantly went out there. Yeah. The remark that Hangman did is one of those, like the sunny days comment.
Yeah.
If you know, you know. If you don't, you don't.
Yeah. So, let me ask you a question. Do you ever think that TK really, this passion that he had to do this, really was to turn a profit? Does he still look at this as truly a business, or is he in it even to make a profit, to turn a profit?
Well, let's go back to the scrum though, Pete, right? We're talking about finances. This is their highest grossing pay-per-view buy.
Did he bring that up, or Punk brought up the figures?
No, this was after.
Okay.
Towards the end of the scrum, after Tony Storm left the stage. They started going through the figures. And this is where we referenced earlier, and I said I'm going to circle back to it. It's comical to me. Because how can you sit there and let these kinds of dire situations get so out of control, Pete?
Yep.
And then at the end of the scrum, while you literally were made a fool of by Swerve, because I feel like Swerve kind of made him look kind of foolish there. It was a little bit in character, so it was a little in character, but there was also some. I felt like still some weird, awkward moments there where, and to their credit, the media asking weird questions. If I'm the champions and I'm sitting there, and I have the media saying, "Hey Tony, why didn't you call an audible and put the title on the other guys other than the ones that are sitting right here in front of us?"
Yeah, I
it's awkward.
Yeah.
But Swerve started to get defensive. So it got kind of awkward there a little bit. Toni Storm was great. There was no issues with her. But at the end of the day, they round back, and then they start talking about the pay-per-view buys. And he said, I thought we're hoping it would be our top selling All Out. It's probably going to be our number 2 to last year. Some people thought, maybe it's because, you had Adam Cole, you had Bryan Danielson last year. This year, first of all, I thought the card stunk going into it. And I'll be honest with you, had its moment. You're right. Too many matches that didn't need to happen. We didn't need FTR and Wardlow on a pay-per-view with, I don't even remember who the hell they faced. It was so long. So much wrestling.
Machine Guns and Jay Lethal.
And they look great. The Machine Guns look phenomenal. That's another thing. I don't understand what they're doing with Machine Guns. Guys have been faces on pretty much their entire career. Now all of a sudden they're literally like the faces of Impact Wrestling still. And then they just randomly come in and they're just like dickheads, like heels. And it just doesn't make it like do they look like the type of guys? Does Alex Shelby and Chris Sabin look like guys who I'm buying into them? Trying to be these smart asses. No, right. I don't buy into it. Weird booking with that. However, they look great in the ring, and it was nice to see them outside of Impact and NJPW and see them working, whether it would have been WWE or AEW. But that being said, it's just super. The card just wasn't very good to go in. There were some surprises. There were moments, but overall, the card was too long. It wasn't good to begin with going in. I didn't think the ladder match overall, I mean, cool spots, but I actually didn't really think the ladder match was that good.
Nope.
Might have been the worst in AEW's history for sure.
I could have did without that. You could have I'd rather had a Hook on the actual main card to get him some exposure. You know what I mean? But who knows?
I'm here. I don't know why I just got FaceTimed by people.
I also the screen went to black.
Yeah, it was weird. Yeah, it's just there was a lot that didn't need to be there, and so Tony references he ignores the fact that it wasn't a very well built card,
right?
And this is where Tony decides now he's going to be like the owner of the company, and he's going to puff his chest out. He's going to draw the line in the sand, and it's because WWE, the competition, ran 2 shows the same weekend, and they were the 3rd wrestling show. So that's the reason. And side note, that whole thing in Cardiff, that had to be planned many, many months in advance.
Yes.
And I listened to a couple of things today where they had said that had nothing to do with them. That is something, when you're running a show overseas in a stadium like that, that's planned well in advance. Even if it ended up being the same weekend, it doesn't mean it was intentional. Either way, it's not the same day. It's the day before.
Yep.
Did they run Worlds Collide? Probably.
But he's talking.
But it's NXT, and how many people really watch the NXT?
And these were free shows, Chrome. Free. Why are you those buys for All Out weren't because of the 2 people weren't tuckered out. If anything, people were tuckered out from wrestling after watching All Out, not because of the other 2. Worlds Collide was 2 hours. Clash of Castle was 3 hours in the middle of the day, and they were the same. He'll be back, people. He'll be back.
I don't even know who this is who keeps calling me, but they need to stop calling me. Jesus Christ. You still have me?
You're here.
Give me 2 seconds, Pete. Let me fix my headset.
Okay. I agree, Eagle fan. It was just a better constructed show There was only 6 matches, went 3 hours. Everybody had enough time to do their thing. And honestly, with AEW programming, they really work on week to week, trying to people who are intertwined, people who don't like each other. You'll see it on Dynamite and Rampage. They run in, and it's just crazy from the standpoint of how much All Out just didn't have the steam. Bright spots were the tag team championship match, and then you had maybe the ladder match was so if I had to rank the matches, and then you had the main event, Danielson Jericho. Yeah, that even ended kind of iffy. I didn't like that. I think that was the 4th best match on the night. You know what I mean? So that's where we're at with it. You back with me, boss?
I am. Somebody keeps calling me. It's annoying me. It's like a FaceTime with like a group of people, and they keep calling me.
Maybe they're just doing it by accident.
Well, they did it 3 times in a row, man. My iPad.
KZ 1994 Abel. I think I'm just going to say it. I don't know if that's right. All eyes on AEW right now. Going to take a talented creative team to turn this trash into treasure. They have it. Once again, Wardlow meaningless to TNT title. The championship bracket tournament, how Wardlow's not in it. I don't understand it. Doesn't make sense to me. But I don't know. Tony Khan has these things and these certain stepping stones that you have to take to get to this spot. And it just doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense to me. But I believe there was a call from Tony Khan to CM Punk and Ace Steel today around 4:00. Don't know the outcome from that. I know if you guys saw the Sports Illustrated article that handed down all the suspensions already, but they did say that Punk and Steel expect to be suspended if not released from the company. So we will see. He definitely needs to get it under control. I really think he needs to establish a certain hierarchy of structure. Like me and Chrome were saying, like you go to WWE, it's structure. You go to this person, you go to this person, you go to this person. Then if all else fails, then you go at that time, it'll be Vince with the head honcho. You're not seeing that with this new regime. But Tony has to remove himself from some of these day-to-day things and just oversee big decisions and get guys in place that he can trust, that can do the right thing, that are not active wrestlers, who don't have clicks, who don't have friends involved, to be able to see the bigger picture. And I mean, I hate to take a cliche from Triple H, and really think about what is best for business. That's what needs, that in my opinion, that's what needs to happen, because the roster is strong enough to do so. But I mean, listen, I'll go out and say it, but besides all this, one of my problems with AEW is Andrade, Miro, Malakai Black, all in the same positions, if not fucking worse than what they were in WWE. That's not, and I mean, we're not talking like they just got there. This is a year later. Ruby Soho, same shit. Ruby Soho, I bet money Ruby Soho, if she would have stayed in WWE, it very well could be a chance that she would be where Liv Morgan is at right now, and that would be her run instead of Liv Morgan.
Maybe. I mean, it depends, because I think maybe under Hunter. I don't think under Vince, because
Vince, no.
Vince sees things differently, if you know what I'm saying.
Oh, of course.
Vince has a very particular type. Let's just, Lacey Evans, Liv Morgan, Trish Stratus. He has a very particular type.
Did you know
Tori Wilson, Sable?
Did you know back in the day, they had to be like right before Jeff Hardy left the WWE for the first time, that him and Trish were a thing? I never knew that.
What, Jeff Hardy?
Yes.
Yeah.
And Jeff, what the fuck? Like, what were you thinking, sir?
Well, he was probably stoned out of his mind, to be honest with you.
Put the crack down, sir. Put the bottle down. What's in front of you, sir? All right, but I digress.
But it's a wild situation, and you're absolutely right. I look at a lot of waste of talent down there, and it's concerning. The women's division is great. I mean, I'm happy to see Toni Storm finally get a spot.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't even think she's done her best work there. I thought she was better in NXT UK, better in NXT.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't really see enough of her on the main roster. I haven't loved her work there. Their women's division, to me, is in shambles at this point.
Yeah,
and Tony's not doing enough to address that.
No, she's not. But that's also the same thing. Like she was given time both runs of NXT and NXT UK, right? Never with the NXT title, women's title. But when she got to the main roster, she really did this shit. She was like, she took a step back and said, I don't like, it's not in the cards for me here. I'm going to take my ball and go home. And she waited. And then now she's here. But even now that she's here, how can you elevate dog shit? You can't. I mean, even she kind of has a beef with Thunder Rosa at the same time, because there was a comment from her like, well, I guess she says she's hurt. So I hate the interim tag, but I guess when she comes back, I'll just beat her then and she'll lose. And then that'll be done with that. I mean, that's a work. But at the same thing, it's just, I think it has to be frustrated a little bit.
Yeah, well, that's kind of the thing I think is really weird about those scrums that they do too. Like they do it, they ride the line in the middle. Some of it's real, some of it's a work. It's kind of odd to me. But I don't understand the disconnect. Like the company was based, and I started really going back and looking at what the roster looked like. And again, I don't expect it to look the same. But look at like Private Party. They were a featured act. It was supposed to be the company of inclusion, right? Where people don't get opportunities like Nyla Rose. And she had opportunities in the beginning, but where's she been at, man? Where has she been at? Sunny Kiss is finally back on the screen, somewhat.
Yeah, somewhat.
It's just very unusual.
And then, like, he's wearing too many hats. Like, even so, right now, he's doing the job of Stephanie and Trips. It's too much.
But we're still putting JR out there every week.
Don't even. Excalibur running laps around this dude, and
all of them.
It's
even
just,
Tony.
I don't know. It's just sentimental, man. That's the one thing I will say. They found their niche. They found their like hardcore cat. And this is the other thing. I don't think hardcore AEW fans fuck with Punk. They don't. They do, but if you had to give them a choice, hardcore day one AEW fan, Young Bucks, Kenny Omega, CM Punk.
Yeah, probably them.
You see what I'm saying? Because that Punk never worked in New Japan. All that New Japan shit with the Bunks did in Reseda, Pro Wrestler PWG, that's where all this, 5, 6, 7 close 2 counts kicking out of finishers. You got to damn near kill somebody to get the 3 count. Punk never worked like that. Punk was way more methodical. Punk is a cross between the 80s and the 90s heel with a 2020s flair. The same vibe. Is it the same? And honestly, it shows in the work, because we've seen in the matches, promo-wise, great. But in the matches, he can't go and match that pace like everyone else can. And it tells you the truth, because his fucking body is breaking down. His body won't let him go like that. So why, Tony, if you want to do that type, if you want to strap that type of strap to him and hit the rocket ship to CM Punk, it makes sense for business, but you can't go. He has to get out of this. Let me go 25, 30 minutes. I can't do that. Punk can't do that. You feel what I'm saying? So he's not that guy no more. He's not that 2013, 2014 Punk no more, just because 7, 8 years on his body and not doing it. And he's never been the biggest guy. He's smart as shit. Don't get me wrong. He knows the business. But at the same time, is it too clicky back there, Chrome? Yeah, it's very clicky back there. But the thing is, the click had the power. It wasn't like that in WWE, WWF. The click, WCW, yeah, that was a whole different thing. But they had the power to the point to where they would go bitch and shit to complain to Vince.
Yeah, the click had Vince's ear, but they didn't have the power of final say.
Right. Where here, Young Bucks and Omega, whether the EVPs and titles, still they have a highly sought after opinion, so people do go to them, and the shit may not even get to Tony. But once again, so let me ask, is there anything that has come out where obviously we know WWE has a team of writers? Does AEW have a team of writers? Like who?
I think Tony handles almost all of the creative, from my understanding, right?
That's why he's not accessible, because he's sitting there. He has to figure out however big his roster is, to figure out really technically 4 hours of programming, because you got to count dark. Even as it go live on TV, it is a YouTube show, and that's an hour. So 4 hours of programming, all this talent, you got to build these shows to figure out where all these fucking strings is going. You can't do it. And if you don't want to, if it's something where you don't want to release control, you can still have final say.
Yeah,
but,
I mean, and even the creative it's just been lazy. Like, we're still running out Darby Allin. How many? I mean, I'll be honest with you. I'm not a Darby Allin fan to begin with, but how many times are we going to see the same old shit? He's the guy who's going to crash his body into every. He's Jeff Hardy 2.0, but he's half the size.
Yep, and Jeff is small.
But he's going to overcome everything. You know, that's kind of the shtick that they're running with him, and it's not good.
Nope,
it's not good at all right now. And I'm over it. I've seen enough of Darby Allin at this point. Like, I've seen them not back certain horses. Now, what they're starting here is, I still say it's a work, just like the screw job. AEW scared. Triple H is in charge now. Brinks, I'm telling you,
this is not. It may turn into business.
Right.
It's not business right now,
and that's the whole conversation that's going on. Is
yes,
real professionals can turn something like this and realize that at the end of the day, if we can make money, I don't have to like you to cash in on it. But Punk has too much of an ego, man.
This right here, this is what we were talking about.
And they give them to Khan. I mean, that's essentially it. You know, Khan has final creative say. He likes to have all of them have an input on it. It was described today, or yesterday maybe, on Busted Open. Dave LaGreca said, and I thought it was beautifully described. He said, when AEW started, and they presented themselves as like the artists.
I heard this
of the wrestling business.
Yep.
And we don't like to hamper our artists by putting restrictions on them. So we like to let them paint their own canvas. But now, by allowing that to continuously happen, now you're at a point where TK has to say, okay, maybe we need to put a few guidelines in on what you're going to paint on your canvas, because we can't just have everybody painting whatever they want. So now they're almost going back on what endeared the fans about the company. And it's the inclusion that we see less and less of at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a big deal. Now, have they gotten some things right? The Acclaimed, Wheeler Yuta, Daniel Garcia, Sammy Guevara. There is a long list. MJF, obviously, list.
Yeah, I think MJF would have reached that pedestal. He had the platform to do it. He's just that fucking good. It would have happened regardless. But everybody else, Garcia, like you mentioned, that the Acclaimed. Fuck, I mean, I can't wait till they're free agents if we ever see them in the WWE.
Well, you won't see them in the capacity unless they go to TV 14.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Before we hit our last topic, before we hit this last quick topic,
good. You want to give a live update?
I forget what I was going to say. No. Well, right now they do have Yuta and Danny Garcia going, so I'm into that. I forget what I was going to say, actually. Sorry. The Young Bucks are overrated. I've come around on the Bucks. I like the Bucks. And if you watch this show for the first 3.5 years, from 2017 to at some point in 2020, I was not a Bucks guy. Mm-hmm. I was the biggest Bucks hater. But at the end of the day, there has to be a structure. There has to be a report. I think everybody can have a voice. But when you're taking away what endeared people about them being the alternative, you're not an alternative anymore. And that's okay. You need to have some guidelines, but you can't be so far to the right or left either that it just gets out of control. And that's honestly the stage that they're at right now.
So real quick with this, I wanted to show this. This is true to a point before his promo tonight.
No, it's still 100% true.
It did, but if you listen to the promo tonight, he even uses that because, I mean, the shit came up. He says, there's only one real Khan, and his name isn't Tony. It's good old Saint Nick. He knows how to It's not the cleanest, but he found a way to still make it happen. Could it have been better? Of course, it could have been better.
But but at the end of the day, they're coming back, and this was supposed to be the night of the return of MJF, and 15 minutes later, it was not even a discussion topic at that point. At the end of the day, it was not even a talking point. He had to come out tonight with them not being allowed in the building in order to kind of reestablish that. And that's not good. We go back and you look at All Out. What are the things that you remember? You remember the Bryan Danielson, Adam Cole debuts last year. Those are the moments you remember. This should be what you remember. The MJF return after 3 months. And it's not. It's going to be, you're going to remember the scrum where Punk won and he shit on everybody at the end of it.
Yeah. Quick question before we get out of here. Remember MJF's promo after, was it Double or Nothing? And he says, and he went off and he talked about the boys in the back to a point. Do you think that was, obviously he doesn't need anybody's help on the mic, but do you think that he sides with, or you just think that he just tries to stay neutral? Or do you think even he has beef? Because if you think about it, he's never really worked with the Bucks or Omega in the whole 3 years.
I think that I don't think he's going into business for himself.
Okay.
At any point.
Okay.
I think it's storyline. Last thing we just wanted to touch on, breaking news today. It's been rumored, it finally happened. Malakai Black granted his conditional release from AEW. We don't know what those conditions are, but quick thoughts on the Malakai Black era in AEW, Pete.
Underwhelming.
Disappointing was the word I would use. Underwhelming is a great one. For a guy whose group is called the House of Black, it didn't take them long to feature everybody else but him in the group. Came out strong, got the push with Cody, like they do with everybody who comes from WWE. You get a 3 or 4 strong months, and then you kind of fade to black. So, but we don't know how true it is. There are rumors out there that he maybe has some personal stuff going on or some physical ailments that he needs to get straightened out. I also just don't think he's very happy there. So I hope everything works out for him.
Trish was his boy, man. Like, people, don't get me wrong, you got a lot of people in the indies that love the Bucks, love Omega, they love that, and that they look at that. But Gargano, Aleister Black, I think his real name is Tommy England, if I'm not mistaken. Tommy End, I think it is. They didn't grow. I think, was it Dave Meltzer who said this? Some podcasts I listened to the last 72 hours have been too fucking many. But you got to remember, Triple H is there now. These kids that came up in wrestling in they didn't fucking think about main event and All Out. They didn't think about main event and Double or Nothing. They didn't think about main event and AEW Revolution. They thought about main event and WrestleMania. They thought about main event and SummerSlam, Royal Rumble, or being in Royal.
Everything Gargano said.
You feel what I'm
saying?
Everything
Johnny Gargano said.
You can't.
What about being an Intercontinental Champion, IC Champion, you're not European Champion, U.S. Champion,
United States
winning
champion.
the Royal Rumble, winning a Money in the Bank. That's the kind of stuff. We are at that age now where these kids who are up there now are old enough to say, "I grew up wanting to win a Money in the Bank." Yeah. But to cap that off, what you're saying, Pete, you're absolutely right. There's a lot. That's the thing. A lot of these guys left. Vince was in charge. You're starting to see more and more, and I think you're going to see more of it. How many Hunter guys are out there? Johnny Gargano, I think, is the first really, really big one to come back. You can argue maybe Cross, but I feel like Gargano to the pure wrestling community is like a Bryan Danielson potential type of guy down the road. And you're seeing that those guys are being highlighted. Ciampa, they're getting their names back. You're going to find out. I don't know if Cole will regret it because I know he's close with the Bucks. But if this turmoil is true, there's going to be other people who wish they never left.
Because you gotta think about Cole's coming back and the Bucks may still be suspended.
It's crazy. Fish is gone. O'Reilly might be done for his career now. He's got a bad neck injury.
I thought about this part right here, bro. Herb Black is getting a divorce from his wife. Man, when you got Tom Brady just missed 11 days, and then like not the being sports one. You got shit going on at home, bro.
Yeah,
you can't. It's hard to focus on anything else, man.
Yeah. Well, we'll see how that works out for him, but we want to wish him luck. Whatever it is, whether it's eventually return. Some people were saying, the conditions are he can't compete for the remainder of his contract. It's 4 years. I highly doubt he agreed to a conditional release where he can't compete for 4 years. I could see a 12-month, like, hey, no compete for 12 months.
Right.
Go and get yourself settled. Give us the first opportunity to talk to you when you come back, and we'll let you go.
Yep.
But either way, good luck to him. We're going to miss seeing him in the ring. Hope whatever needs to get taken care of is taken care of, and we get you back, when you're ready to go. But lots to pay attention to. More stuff's going to come out, so make sure you guys are checking out In This Very Ring this Saturday night with Andy Butters and maybe Mr. Pete Evans, maybe myself. We'll see. We might hop on with them too. Yep. Also, stay tuned. A2D Wednesday night's going to be coming out with you very shortly. I'll be jumping on with the boys. Eagles football season kicking off this weekend. And Pete, tomorrow night, Birds of a Feather. My old stomping grounds, my old co-hosts. You guys are doing a great job over there.
Yes.
So they'll be doing their Eagles season opening preview show, and tons of stuff to talk about here on A2D. Phillies, Sixers, Flyers. Make sure you guys come back. Check us out, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. Subscribe, follow, share with your friends. Make sure you guys are pumping those videos. If you're watching us right now, make sure you're liking our videos. And that's all we got. We want to say a thank you to our sponsors, Dr. Paul Vidal, Specialized Physical Therapy in Burlington, Cherry Hill, New Jersey. Find them on the web, specializedphysicaltherapy.com. BetUS. Bring the BetUS one up for me, Pete.
Gotcha, baby.
BetUS, leading online sports book. They've been in the market for over a quarter of a century, so make sure you guys are checking them out. Use that link. It's in the comment section. Get yourself 125% or 125% sign-up bonus. Follow us. Check them out, BetUS. And obviously, Manscaped. There's a lot of funky dudes out there I know to watch this show. I see you guys in the comment section. I interact with you. And listen, I'm telling you, get that 20% off free shipping with the A2D at manscaped.com. Again, 20% off free shipping with the code A2D at manscaped.com. Throw all your old hygiene habits and upgrade your life. Get that Paul deodorant, and I'll see you in Disney. We'll walk all comfortably together. For myself, Pete Evans, we appreciate you guys. Make sure you guys like, subscribe, and follow. I'll say it 1,000 times until I turn blue in the face. There you go. That's right. Become a member of A2D. $9.99 a month. You're going to get appearances on shows, members-only streams, shout-outs, and weekly sports picks. The Money Pot Podcast and Willie Vegas. Those guys are going to put some money in your pocket. Hit that damn like and subscribe button. Till next time, we out. See you later.
Peace.